should say it's considered a pretty modest apartment, but I actually feel fairly privileged to have it. I know so many people in around the Grand Rapids area and everywhere who absolutely have nothing, and just to have my own place where I'm king of my own castle here, what could be better than that? So I do absolutely feel very, very privileged just to have a place to live, and it's not just something you say for the camera. I really do viscerally feel that all the time. It cost, until recently, I figured it was, to live the way I want to live, was costing me about $8,000 a year, something like that. Now my rent's more, in the last couple of years, just with what's happening in housing in this area, my rent's gone up some, so it's probably the top end of $9,000 a year, something like that, to live. Bills, by bills, well, this place, this apartment, $550 a month. That includes everything. Until this same building, this same apartment, as of, a year and a half ago, would have been less than $400 a month. So that's why that's become more expensive. I pay $30 a month for a phone, and I pay $25 a month to store my canoe. Those are my main bills. I don't pay anything for food. I eat for free. And we can get into that if needed. I don't have a car, so I don't have any car payments. I've never really had any debt. I've been lucky that way, partly having a fairly solid, not a rich background by any means, but a fairly solid, probably lower middle class upbringing, but whether we were never really in debt. In Britain you don't get student loans and things as much as you do over here, at least not the way I did any education. Occasionally I have a bicycle, occasionally I have to pay to fix my bike. I have, I'll pay to fix my snowshoes once in a while, or my skis. I'll, have to buy something, once in a while, but not much. I mean, what do you spend your money on, Food, yep, as I think will come out somewhere in the course of this video. I pretty much don't pay for food. I let it be known that I'm prepared to eat what other people are throwing away, and all of this, including the Schwann stuff. Somebody got all of this, didn't like it, got extras, didn't know what to do with it, so they gave it to me. Different people, a friend of mine made some soup here, different kind of soups that they made. Didn't like her, that didn't really turn out, didn't know what to do with it, and people know, everybody who knows me knows that I will pretty much eat anything, so I always tell people, make me the last stop before the garbage can. Don't make any extra for me, but if you've got stuff that nobody wants and you don't know what to do with, I will take it. Oh, dear me. A couple of things falling out and down on me here. We'll edit that bit. Yeah, I've also done my share of dumpster diving over the years. Haven't had to do as much of that recently. When I was first in Grand Rapids, I did some of that. Haven't had to do it as much recently because so many people have got food that they giving away, throwing away, don't like, the kids don't like, so they give it. And I heard a program on the radio, I forget, was on some public radio station or another, about these people called freegans who ate for free, and it's like, wow, I wonder if I could do that. And so when I left about 10-11 years ago, my wife and I separated, and I left the camp then, and I wound up in Grand Rapids because I had a connection with the ambulance service here, and I got part-time work here. Well, then I'm going to see if I can live, just do this experiment, and it's been, at least for me, it's been extremely easy. It's not even a challenge at all. It gets easier all the time to live for free. A lot of people wouldn't like it. I can't be that picky about what I eat. I don't always eat the healthiest diet, but not terrible. And so that's how I live. The ways I do that, well, when I was first here, wasn't very connected. A lot of it was dumpster diving. On here, since I've moved in here, I've been here a little over a year. I've used the shower a total of 0 times. And the risk of appalling everyone, I don't typically shower these days. I do wash, and I wash in, you know, the places you might expect to wash. In the warm part of the year, the summer, I'm always jumping in the lakes, in the pits, in the river. I mean, that, in a nutshell, clearly we live in a finite planet, and whether you're talking about carbon, whether you're talking about water resources, whether you're talking about deforestation, whether you're talking about fires, because so much, you know, whatever the issue, food, well, not just food, but just, again, a finite planet, and if I'm taking more than I need, then resources are clearly getting stretched all over the place. I mean, this is mid-80s, and this was early 80s even when I was planning it, and people weren't talking much about carbon then. I'm sure some people were in some areas of academia, but there wasn't much talk about climate change and the imminent threats, at least in the general public. Politicians weren't talking about it in the way that we are now. It just wasn't really on the general radar screen. But I think I always, from getting into my teenage years, definitely felt like just on a gut level, I didn't want to have much stuff. That at least for me, I was going to be happier if I had fewer possessions, if I was able to be a bit footloose and fancy free. That I think I got, you know, I didn't have no possessions, but I think I was starting to develop that feeling that being able to live simply was going to be where happiness was for me, or contentment, or whatever, you know. The motivation is at the gut level rather than, I've heard about these things, and now I have to change my life. I mean, it is not that I don't, absolutely, I want to be all about doing the right thing for the climate. I wanted to be all about doing the things so I'm living as a sustainable human being on the planet. Of course, that's very important to me. But and I talk all day about it. But I think still gut level stuff is very much a motivator for me, as I think it is for. I think it's always what motivates most of us. I think we talk, you know, about these great concepts, but I think as human beings we're fundamentally animals, and we're motivated by our gut more than we are by anything else, even though we'll often give a great intellectual response when someone asks us a question, but I'm not sure that that's always what's motivating us. But absolutely, having said that, do I think it's a good idea to live simply so that, you know, others can simply live? Of course, absolutely. You know, what's a good way to live? For 20 years, my wife and I directed a Lutheran church camp, and we were very much about discussing, you know, what's a good way to. The conversation was often framed from a sort of progressive Christianity point of view, but the same ethics that we all have. What's a good and ethical, kind, just way to live? You know, I was involved in a community in Minneapolis where they was asking the same kinds of questions, and for me it was quite clear that the answer always seemed to be, you know, minimalism and consuming less. Whatever the issue, you pick an issue that's important, it seems like that's always all the better. You know, if people had consumed less, we'd all be better off, you know.
All is well, all shall be well, all manner of things shall be well. All is well, all shall be well, all manner of things shall be well. This I know, this I know, this I know, this I know, this I know. My heart shall be well, my home shall be well, all manner of things shall be well. The earth shall be well.
Becoming religious as much as anything, is about choosing to practice something and choosing to become something rather than having a particular set of beliefs.
This I know, all is well, all shall be well, all manner of things shall be well, all is well, all shall be well, all manner of things shall be well.
Do you hope to influence?
Yeah, on some level, when that happens, when people tell me, and I've had a number of people along the way tell me, oh, you've really inspired me to live a more simple life or to live a more altruistic life, or that means a huge amount to me when I hear that. Having said that, the other side of it is, as you and I think talked about ahead of time, I'm always nervous that even if you don't say much, I'm always nervous just that coming across as holier than thou, and I'm a little bit nervous about that with this, that because you could look at every choice I'm making and you could say, you could criticize it, or I've made some real sacrifices. I think it's a reason life's complicated, but this stuff is a reason my wife and I separated. Well, that was a kind of, if you say, a commitment for anyone. When you get married, you think you're making a commitment, and so I chose some different things, and I don't support some of the small businesses in town as much as maybe some other people do who spend more money. Even the big businesses, you could even make a case that whoever produces the stuff that's sold at Walmart, whether they're in China or wherever, they need a job like we all do, and I'm not supporting them because I'm not spending much money there, so I don't travel much anymore, and there's having a family in Britain, you could make a case that that's unethical or unfair or downright selfish, that I'm not going back to visit my family more. So I don't, some people in hearing this might see what I'm doing as being quite narcissistic and selfish.
Simon is a character. Simon is giving, kind, eccentric. You learn so much from Simon. You learn how to be better from Simon. He has quirks that'll drive you nuts, but you learn how to be better from him. Simon, again, because he's a freegan, Simon doesn't wash clothes the same way I do. Simon is also really concerned about the environment, so he doesn't want to overuse anything. He doesn't want to overuse water. He doesn't want to overuse electricity. He wants to really look at his footprint. And so when he washes his clothes, he doesn't dry them. And so he'll lay them on the floor, or he'll lay them like over chairs. Things don't get as air circulated as they could. Now, different times of the years if you put them outside. So he sometimes smells stale and musty. When he comes to my house, he's coming from anywhere. I mean, it could be, just his house, or it could be out at a campfire. He could be out doing some recreation. And so I have a chair in my living room, and I have a quilt on my chair, a little quilt. And I finally just said, Simon, that's your chair. You've got to sit there. Simon was always willing to go over. I'd say, okay, can you go check on Mom? Or then when she got to where we actually did have hospice, he would come over and help me. And then literally the Sunday, she died on a Tuesday, and the Sunday before her death, we had to place her in Diamond Willow for 1 month because she got so rigid we couldn't physically move her. And I called him one night because my mom was having, I'm going to probably start crying, but she was delusional and she was having fits and she was having what was called sundowners and she was terrified. And it was a slow, awful death. It was not a nice death. It was a icky, awful death. She said, "Get me out of here, Pamela. Just get me out of here." And I didn't know what to do. I have my mother begging me to do something, and I'm helpless. And I just thought, I have this sofa as a sofa bed, and I was trying to think, well, do I bring her here to die? What do I do? Because you couldn't manage her with just one person. You needed a team because she was so rigid and stiff. And I called Simon and said, I'm in a panic right now. I don't know what to do, but I got to get her out of here. And he came over right away and he sensed the urgency, and we got her in this special chair that she had, this special wheelchair. And we got her outside and got her to my car. And I said, "Mom, where do you want to go?" And then I think she was kind of shocked at that time. Like she had been stuck in this dark, hot room. And then when she got outside, she was scared. And she said she just wanted to go for a walk. But at that time, he was going to be my partner in crime. And damn, I was going to have him help me break her out of there. Because if she said to go to my house, without a doubt, I would have said, "Let's take her to my house." And he would have been there to do that with me. Again, I think for the greater good. Not because you can't take somebody out of a nursing home, but because I was so scared and I wanted to do whatever I could to help my mother die in peace. So anyhow, he was great. He took me for a walk with her. My mom wasn't always a pleasant person. She was pretty crabby. But he was there to really be kind and to help me with the physicality too. There was so much physicality in it. But he came at a moment's notice. I mean, I really consider him to be one of my best friends. He's in my best friend's circle. He's so reliable. And I feel like I'm really lucky. I have a great big, it's supposed to be life-size, it could be life-size, brass rubbing of Saint Simon or Sir Simon.
You call it Sir?
Well, it's Saint Simon, but I call it Sir Simon.
I think my mother would like me to come and visit. I think she would. Well, I know she would. I don't know where this is going, but I struggle with that. I struggle with the whole business of going back to visit any of my family, just with flying again. It's not clearly climate change is happening. It's not just a theoretical thing that might happen one day. It's happening now and it's killing people.
You've got to move. You've only got one mom, basically. And, she's aging, and this is going to mean more than, that plane's going to be flying no matter what. So that still isn't logical to him. It doesn't matter to him. As much as you can tell him, that plane's still going to be going whether you're that one person on there or not. That plane's still going. Okay. Simon, you watched me with my mother. You know what I'm living with. You go. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts. If it gets to that point again, I'm going to be the one that will say, and others will too, you go. You get one. You don't get many chances with your parents. Once they're gone, you don't have it again.
And there's a story I may have shared this before, I'm not sure, but when I was first coming to America, and I quit a job that I could have had a good career there if I'd wanted to really invest in that, but once I was done with my apprenticeship, I quit virtually immediately. And my parents didn't say don't do it, and then I had this plan to can it all and go across to America. And the train where I took the train down to London for the airport with my bike on the train, and they waved me off when I was on the plane. And then as they were walking back up, my mother only told me about this a few years ago. She said she and my dad walking back up, one of them said to the other, "Do you think he'll ever come back?" And they said, "I don't know." But and I said to my mother, she only told me this a few years ago, I said, "Wow, that must have been awfully painful, wasn't it? She said, oh, it was terribly painful. I said, God, I never would have had a clue about that. She said, oh no, I never would have let you know that in a million years. I know, exactly. I know. And I mean, to have such a, and I never felt anything but loved. And, you know, to have that, to come from that, and to still have that, and to still, my dad died sadly in 96, but to have had that kind of start, not wealth necessarily, but to have that kind of emotional support. And, you know, when I think of even people who have good parents, still wouldn't have had that. They'd have had parents, you know, twisting their arm to come back and stay locally. And even now, I talked to my brother again the other day, and, you know, my family knows this whole struggle that I have with flying, and can I really justify going home to visit them again? And my brother just went down to visit my mother, and she's almost 90 now. And she said, you know, she said to Mark, I've more or less made up my mind that I won't see Simon again. And, you know, but no, and my brother told me that. So I just tell you that just because I want you to. No coercion from my brother, no coercion from my mother. They all understand.
Simon is a one of a kind. He is the most genuine person I know. He's the most giving person I know. He wants to save the world with every person he sees. There should be more Simons in the world. Get my hands out of the way. Stop! Oh, Simon. The only challenging thing is that I wish he wouldn't wear the same clothes all the time. The other day, you're gonna laugh, but I free-breezed him before we went to the Thanksgiving dinner. Yes. Yeah, I was like, shh, stand up. Shh, 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 shh.
Oh, there you go. Good deal, Pat. These are the gloves have got to come off now, huh? Oh, dear me.
I've known Simon for probably 7 years now. I had to go to the homeless shelter because I thought my apartment was going to be ready, but it was going to take 2 more weeks. So I went to the homeless shelter, which is very nice, by the way, and Simon volunteers there. So that's how we met. And then when I got in my apartment, there's a knock on the door, and I'm like, why is he here? And he was just checking on me, make sure I had everything I needed, and it was really nice. And so then we became friends, and he invited me over. I learned a little bit about his lifestyle. And then he invited me over for dinner, and we had a can of raviolis with crushed up pretzels on top. And it was love at first sight, no. He saves all his money, and like for Christmas, he goes and he spends $2,000 on gift cards from Walmart, and at $25 a piece, and hands them out to people who need them. Yeah. So, like I said, there's only one Simon.
I mean, what do you spend your money on? You know, I do give, and you know, I'm fortunate that I earn about, you know, probably close to twice as much as I need just by working part-time, and I'm able to give the other half of it away, you know, to various sources. Cause
So you give away half of what you make?
yeah, about that, probably yeah, something of the sort. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Simon is one of a kind. He is willing to help anyone. Once we were at the library to attend a show, a speaker, and there were some people sitting outside that they looked cold and hungry. They had a dog with them, and Simon just stopped going to the program and started talking with them, and it turned out that they didn't have any place to go, so he found them a motel room and paid for it, and he does things like that. So he's quite an amazing person.
We're at Grace House of Itasca County, the homeless. Some people call it the Grace House, some people just say Grace House. Either way, it's the only homeless shelter in Itasca County. Homelessness is a big issue, and it's getting worse. People don't think of it as a big issue. People think a lot of you'll still hear from some people, we don't have it around here because they don't see tent cities or people sleeping under bridges in the same way that you might in Minneapolis, for example, or even in Duluth. But it's getting worse, certainly in the whole country, certainly in Itasca County and Grand Rapids. Housing's becoming, just the way the economy is structured, housing's becoming just a bigger and bigger issue that's just sadly going in the wrong direction. Well, this is this actual building used to be until, I don't know how long ago, it was a Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall at one point. It stood empty for a while, I'm not sure how long, maybe somebody else could say. What you're seeing now upstairs, this is the main kind of, I suppose, living space upstairs, and the rooms with the curtains, those are where people live. The ones, the smaller rooms you can see there with the checkered curtains, these are individual rooms. Occasionally there'll be an adult and a child will stay in a room when we type there. And the end rooms are what comes to the bigger ones with the basic solid green curtain at the top. They are the family rooms.
He's probably, again, I'm more skeptical and suspect of people where he isn't. I'm always like, whoa, and again, that probably comes from law enforcement background. I'm always like, are you sure they're not taking advantage of you? Are you sure you're not giving money to somebody who's going to use you? Something to that effect. I don't know how to describe that any bigger than he's really committed to, he'll give people, for example, homeless people at the Grace House, if they need something or need a room, he's willing to offer up his own wallet to do some of those things. And while I think sometimes it's helpful, sometimes I think that people also take advantage of him and realize, for lack of a better thing, he's an easy mark.
Is it possible that if these people had managed their money better, they wouldn't need to borrow from me? Of course, but who of us has lived a perfect life, and who of us has used our money the most wisely, every penny we've been given? This makes me sound like I'm some major philanthropist, which I'm not. You're talking to probably one of the person who earns a pretty modest income, but to the extent that I've got it to give away, then what else are you gonna do with it?
I met Simon through my husband Harry, who met him at some meeting, and you're going to have to ask Simon which meeting it was, but Simon evidently asked how Harry was, and Harry said, well, I need a kidney. And that was how they met, and Simon said, well, I can give you one. Harry had a disease that he inherited from his mother, and it started affecting him at age 50, and normally this disease strikes people younger, but it had affected his hearing. He couldn't hear very well. He had hearing aids. His balance, he couldn't ski or ice skate anymore. He could still teach forestry at Itasca Community College, but he would fall over sometimes in labs, and his students would just prop him back up, pick him up and send him on his way. But then it affected his kidney, we found out, and he took very good care of his diet and exercise so that he never had to go on dialysis. But it was clear that he needed a kidney if he was going to continue with life. So it was, Simon came in the nick of time. Harry didn't have many more months to go before he would need to go on dialysis. So yeah, we were all pretty happy.
At least for me, nothing makes me happier than feeling like you can be helpful. And so often I've tried to be a good person, tried to be helpful in my life, but sometimes, you know, how much you feel like you do, and there's nothing like actually donating a body part to someone to make that more tangible, to say, look, I'm prepared to, for you, for whoever, you human being, I'm prepared to get surgery, be cut open, take my organ out, I'll live without it, and so that hopefully you can have a good life. When you can do something good and be appreciated, who doesn't want to do that, you know?
He did quite well. He got it in 2016. After he got the kidney, his health was much better. He had more energy. He could bike farther. So it was really a big improvement after receiving the kidney. Unfortunately, he had a stroke in 2020 and never quite recovered from that. But the kidney gave him 4 good years of life. So it was a blessing, I guess you'd say.
And I was just bound and determined and on fire to do it, and I would have been really, really disappointed if they hadn't have let me do it. I don't know. I just got a real sense of mission about it. I will say I've been the happiest and the most joyful I've been probably in these last 11 or so years that I've been on my own. I'm a lot more sailing my own ship now, and I can live in this very simple way. I'm not as busy as I used to be. I live a lot more simply than I used to. I live on a lot less, make a lot less waste. And that, I think, what gives me joy then, I think now, just to feel like I'm living simply, feel like I'm living in harmony with my other fellows in the world, feeling like I'm doing good and getting along with people, and both trying to be an honest, accountable, good person in the world, and at the same time trying to be kind and get along with people, and trying to feel like I'm not using more than my share of the world's resources.